Let's welcome Marion Jones. From the very beginning, I knew that I was faster than most other people. Started getting the phone calls from different sponsors.
I was the star going into the first Olympics.
I've never taken a performance-enhancing drug, and I never will.
Her doing what was expected of her, winning, putting it on the line.
I want all of you to know that today I pled guilty to 2 counts of making false statements to federal agents.
Jones must surrender herself to authorities by March 11th, although she'll likely turn herself in before that.
Because of my actions, I'm retiring from the sport of track and field.
Marion Jones was on her way to becoming the greatest track and field athlete, man or woman, who ever lived.
Marion Jones is a free woman. The disgraced sprinter was released from a federal prison in San Antonio.
Funny, you never know how your life is going to change. And you think that you kind of know it all.
Now you say I'm from round away, yo, and yesterday was
I wouldn't advise properly, and I made a mistake. However, I'm coming back from my mistake, and she don't want them to make the same mistake.
No matter the fashion of my hair, my shoes, I will always do just what I choose. Don't expect of me what you would do. We were raised differently, I ain't you, but that don't.
Never in my life did I imagine that I'd be speaking in front of you all. I never imagined that I would have gone to prison.
I think she's making a bigger difference than when she was running, because now she's able to get out and speak to the youth and try to help someone else.
She's confronted her past. She's accepted it, learned lessons from it.
She is 34 years old. She hasn't played competitive basketball in a dozen years.
But I remember when she was in college. I think it's fantastic. She needs to do something physical because that's what kind of person she is.
You don't come across pure athletes often. She's like shooting these jumpers all in my face. I'm like, hold up, track girl.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, you know, and that's why I think right now there's no telling what Marion's going to do, because, you know, she is probably right now one of the strongest women in the world.
If you don't see somebody who has been down here, if you don't see them crawling back up and getting back up here, you know, you think that it can't happen. I'm in it to win it. That's what they say, right?
I think it'll be in the eyes of the beholder, and I know that in my eyes, Marion will always be one of the greatest professional athletes to have graced this earth.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Let's wake up. Yeah, we're happy to be here. Well, I must say that it is a great privilege for me here today as one of the keynote speakers at the Pennsylvania Women's Conference. So excited to be here. I want to especially thank Denise Morrison, the CEO of Campbell's Soup, and Jess Rivkin Black for inviting me to participate in this year's event. Many of you here today know something about my story, about my meteoric rise to the top of the athletic world, and how it all slowly, painfully, and embarrassingly came crashing down because of certain bad choices that I made. Decisions which not only caused me to give back my Olympic medals, endorsement deals, and my reputation, but also cost me my freedom and disappointed and hurt many people. However, out of this entire journey of my life, I want to share a few things with you all this afternoon, things which I hope that can help you understand why I'm so passionate about my Take a Break message. For a few moments, I'm going to need you to kind of use your remote control and go back a little while, and let's rewind the movie of my life a few years to the late 1970s and early mid-1980s. I was born Marion Jones in 1975 in Los Angeles, California, and everything seems to be going well until my parents were divorced and my stepfather passed away. My mom raised my brother and I as a single parent, and unfortunately this storyline is way too common for many young kids today in America. A few years later, she married a wonderful man, and we thought we had the perfect family, and he was like the father that I never had. But when I was 7, he passed away of a massive head stroke, and my mother was once again forced to be mom and dad to both of us. But back then I was young, and I could not really understand everything around me, and there was a lot of pain and a lot of confusion in my heart, and I really did not know how to deal with it all. So over the next few years, I really started acting out and getting into trouble, and my mom tried her best with me, but I was definitely a handful. So at that time, I really could not appreciate the countless sacrifices that she had made for my brother and I, and especially as being a single parent. We weren't poor, but we did not have much, so my mom worked several jobs to get me the best coaches and the best training. I was often home with my big brother a lot of the time, and I had to figure out a lot of life on my own, and sometimes I didn't do such a good job of it. So fortunately, my mom and I realized that I had been blessed with an enormous amount of physical talent, and from a young age, we started to stay focused and figure out what I wanted to do in my life. And in many ways, sports became an outlet for my soul. Well, at least it was for the rest of my life. So let's pause there and take a snapshot of that scene and fast forward to about 3 years ago. So between those two markers, there's about 20 years during which I had qualified for the track and field Olympic team at the age of 16 years old. I won an NCAA women's basketball championship at the University of North Carolina in 1994. I graduated in 1997, and I devoted myself 100% to track and field. I won my first world championship medal later that same year, and then I won 5 Olympic medals in 2000. I also at that time lied to federal investigators about my use of performance-enhancing drugs in 2003. I pled guilty to those charges in 2007. I was stripped of my Olympic medals and publicly humiliated, sentenced to federal prison in January 2008, and then I entered prison in March 2008 to serve my 6-month sentence. And imagine we have just forwarded past all of that in about 30 seconds if I had only just taken a break. But here's what I want you to zoom on now. I want you to zoom on in this whole idea of me curled in a cold 5x5 room, crying myself to sleep at night as my tears dropped onto photos of my family. I was in solitary confinement for 49 days, forced to be by myself for 23 hours out of the day. So not only am I restricted from the outside world, I'm also isolated from other inmates, and prison life was tough, but being in solitary was perhaps the hardest thing that I've ever had to do in my life. If I had only just taken a break. Even now it's hard to think about it or talk about it. There are no words to describe the feeling of physically missing my second son's birthday and not even hearing his voice on that day because I couldn't make phone calls. Even tears seemed inadequate to convey the depth of guilt and hurt at not being able to talk to my first son, who was turning 4 years old during that time. If I had only just taken a break. Of all the scenes in my life, why have I chosen to share with you those two today? Because the first one was pivotal in setting the stage for the second one, and they both are important to understand me and my passion today. Although at that time I didn't understand it at a young age, I started running away from the pain and the confusion in my past, scene one, and those things helped shape my choices in life. But eventually I could not outrun or outsmart the consequences of my choices, which finally led me to scene two. Being in solitary confinement almost broke me in the worst way. For the first few weeks in solitary, I was overcome with guilt and regret and despair. My finances, my career, my name, and my life seemed to be in irreparable tatters. I was in a shell. And if only I had just taken a break. But then I found hope, and I found faith, and I started replacing negativity with positive thoughts and saying things in my mind to keep me going. Instead of looking at my failures in life, I started to look at the good things. I started to look at my life from a totally other perspective. Being alone and confined allowed me to see how the power of our choices and our attitudes shape our lives in powerful ways, for good or for bad. That chapter of my life ends with me leaving prison at the end of 2008. Unsure about my future, unsure about the things, but having something that I had never in my life felt before. Even at the top of my game, I had figured out my purpose. Now, I realize how my athletic abilities and accomplishments, my ups, my downs, my successes, and my failures can be used to encourage people to do the right thing and to take a break, think, get good advice from people, and make better choices in our professional and in our personal lives. As I travel across the country and around the world speaking to different audiences, from churches to conferences to those in the corporate world and even to young people. And last week, even as an ambassador to the United States, I spoke to the people in rebuilding countries of Croatia and Serbia. I'm passionate about using the wrongs in my life to help people make better choices in their own lives and to show people that failure can be the catalyst to great success. I also encourage young people to set boundaries in their life, to stand up for what's right, even if it seemingly will not cause you to get ahead, or it's unpopular to do, or it might cause you to lose a relationship. If you fail to set boundaries in your life, you often find yourself following others and drifting along a path that might not be the best or the right one for you. Doing that could cost you even more in the long run. Many times in my own life, I saw red flags and warning signs, but didn't press the issue and do what's right. I didn't ask questions. I did not set boundaries and draw the line in the sand that I know I should not cross. And it cost me dearly. So taking a break to get proper advice before you make a choice in your life and to act on it is the focus of my message. In November 2003, before my big, fateful interview with federal investigators, my lawyers told me, Marion, take a break if you need one. But at the most important moment, instead of taking a break to leave the interview room, to get myself together and to get good, sound legal advice on a particular matter, I chose to solve the situation on my own. And although my lawyers, they were right there with me out of shame and trying to protect myself and others, I chose to lie. And looking back, if I had only taken a break at that very moment to step outside the interview room and to tell them the whole embarrassing truth about my situation, they would have been able to properly guide me. But I lied, and I eventually made matters far worse than they should have been because I did not take a break to get proper advice in my life, and I made the wrong decision, a decision that eventually caused me to lose my freedom. Despite my encouragements, everyone's not always going to take a break. They have this heavy price in their life. They lose control of their lives and they get off track. And I also encourage people who have made bad decisions, those who failed in life or those who are facing tough times, to keep the faith and know that things can get better. I encourage all of you strong women here today to reach out, touch a person, a young person's life, urge them to take a break in their own lives before making decisions that will have a profound impact on their lives. I'm living proof that failure spawns true success. From crisis comes opportunity, that you too can get on the right track. You just have to have faith. Thank you all very much.